In a previous video, I played one or two clips from a recent interview of Donald Trump's. It was on ABC and it was disastrous. And I want to revisit the full interview now because besides the viral moment of Trump insisting that a photoshopped picture of the characters MS-13 on Kilmar Abrego Garcia's knuckles were actually real, he insisted that it's gone viral. There were other major moments in that interview that are worth discussing and indicative into how deranged this man really is. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, let's play some clips here from ABC's recent interview with Donald Trump, starting with this one.
Concern out there. People are worried, even some people who voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually, and this is what I campaigned on. I said that we've been abused by other countries at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We were losing $3 to $5 billion a day on trade.
So Trump's stupidity with respect to his interpretation of trade deficits, and he thinks that they're inherently bad. That notwithstanding, I gotta say, actually, I agree with Trump on this one in the sense that I hear people saying, "Oh, we didn't expect this." But I'm kind of shocked because Trump campaigned on doing it. So for you to have paid any modicum of attention to Trump at all, to walk away and say, I had no idea he would do this, what you're insisting is that you thought that he wouldn't do what he said he was going to do, and you voted for him anyway, which is kind of a strange voting paradigm. Hey, I'm voting for this person because I think he actually won't do the things he's promised that he will do, and then he starts to do them in the worst possible way, don't get me wrong, but to plead ignorance, I don't know. I'm actually with Trump on that one. It's like you kind of did sign up for sweeping tariffs if you voted for him, right? Which isn't to say that you can't change your mind now that you start to feel the sting of it, but this idea that, I had no idea he would do this thing he promised he would do repeatedly on the campaign trail doesn't really fly. Here's another clip.
You said something a couple weeks ago that struck me. You said concerning the tariffs, which economists say are going to raise prices, you said, quote, hang tough. Yeah. It won't be easy. You said that to the American people. Is that what Americans should expect, some hard times?
I've said that during my campaign. Look, we won a campaign by a lot. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by a lot. We had a tremendous campaign. I said all of these things during my campaign. I said, you're going to have a transition period. We've been ripped off by every...
He didn't say that during the campaign trail. That's the problem. Trump didn't talk about a transition period. He said it would be painless until after he won the election and was sworn into office. And then he slowly started to roll out this idea that, okay, number one, it would take time. It wasn't going to be overnight. It would take time. And number two, during that time, there would be some discomfort. And then he started to increase the magnitude of the discomfort, right? So he's full of shit there. But again, this what he's telling the American people is just something that the American people really aren't willing to tolerate outside of his cult of personality. This works in communist China where, Xi Jinping is able to tell the Chinese populace, like, no, you will suffer for an extended period because of these long-term policy goals. The American people are not wired that way. And so I think Trump is barking up the wrong tree in this respect, but we'll see what happens. Here's another clip.
Secretary said we basically have an embargo on China.
Look, you're trying to say something's going to happen, Terry.
No, okay, well,
nothing's going to happen.
You know business.
Terry,
I want to ask you.
I do know business.
Yes,
and
so 145% tariffs on China, and that's good. Basically an embargo.
They deserve it.
It'll raise prices on everything from electronics to clothing to building houses.
You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going to eat it.
That's mathematics.
China probably will eat those tariffs, but it'll...
So Donald Trump just said that he thinks that China will eat the tariffs. That China is so desperate. They're so horny to do business with us. They're so eager. They love us so much. They love our markets so much that they'll just absorb tariffs. What? What does that even mean? The tariffs that we're talking about, the 145% tariffs, it's American companies that will absorb you don't think China's going to... what's he explaining here? Because it's going to be people importing the products into America that will have to pay the tariffs. So how's China going to, just eat the tariffs? And what makes you think in reality that American companies will eat the tariffs? Because that's the only way that they don't get passed on to the consumers if companies decide to just totally shirk, their profit incentives and say, you know what, for the sake of the American people, Mr. President, we'll just eat the costs on this. We don't care about profits. Really? Seems ridiculous.
So your message to those small businesses who are saying we can't live a month, 2 months with these tariffs. Apple got a big deal. Is there something for them?
No, not only Apple. We've got $7 to $8 trillion being invested in our country in 2 months. Biden didn't have that over a year. I mean, if you look at Biden, nobody was really investing in this country. Everybody was ripping off our country. Apple's putting up $500 billion, but that's only one of many companies.
The problem is that Apple is signaling this. And number one, I mean, President Biden's domestic agenda, particularly with the CHIPS and Science Act, actually inspired, yes, billions upon billions upon billions, trillions of dollars worth of domestic investment over the span of 4 years. But Trump is saying, well, listen, they're promising that in the future they'll do X, Y, and Z. But Trump also got such promises in his first term, like the Foxconn plant, which never actually opened. See, the thing is, these various companies probably believe that they can tell, you know what, hey, Mr. President, in a couple of years, we're going to $500 billion. Don't worry about it. And then they never actually materialize, right? Because these investments take time. Trump's saying, well, they promised they'll do it. What does that mean? And that's taking his estimates at face value, which we never should. This isn't exactly encouraging. And again, he doesn't answer about the small businesses. Okay, like you're making exceptions and exemptions for major companies. Well, what about smaller companies, mom and pops that are also affected by your tariffs? What are you going to do to help them? And he has no answer.
Signal chat with his wife on it where he's discussing that attack in Yemen. There's another signal chat discussing the attack on Yemen. There's a reporter accidentally involved. You said the other day that you had a talk with the secretary. Did you take him to the woodshed?
I had a talk with him, and whatever I said, I probably wouldn't be inclined to tell you. But we had a good talk. He's a talented guy. He's young. He's smart, highly educated. And I think he's going to be a very good hopefully a great defense secretary, but he'll be a very good defense secretary.
You have 100% confidence in
I don't
Pete
have
Hegseth.
100% confidence in anything. Okay.
It's not exactly much of a ringing endorsement there. He's hedging, right? He's hedging. And he's talking about Pete Hegseth, defense secretary, who, yes, there was a second Signalgate scandal that we discussed where Pete was actually sending same sort of classified, highly sensitive military intelligence in the first Signalgate chat that leaked to Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg. Well, he was also sending it to his wife and his brother and his personal attorney. And I will note at the time of recording, a few days after this interview, Trump fired Mike Waltz, his national security advisor. So Pete might be next. Who knows? Here's another clip.
There were some things where, when I heard about them, I put them back, as you know. There are things that I'm considering right now putting back, but overall we've saved hundreds of billions of dollars.
Well, the original promise was $2 trillion, went to $1 trillion, now to $150 billion, and heading south.
You don't know what it's going to be because we have things that are at a very high level that are being looked at right now. We also found tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse, as you know. We found a lot of fraud. There was a lot of fraud. Fraudulent things were taking place. And we ended that, and those people are going to be suffering because of it.
A legal note, fraud is a crime. There have been no referrals to the Justice Department on any of
Well,
these.
you don't know that, do you? How do you know that?
Have there been referrals to the, are there criminal referrals?
How would you know that there were no referrals? I think there were referrals.
They generally, all right, there's been no investigation.
Yeah, these referrals are generally publicized. You saying there have been secret referrals? Are you confirming that there have been referrals? Because again, they throw that F word around, fraud. Well, where are the prosecutions? Where are the investigations? Of course, they're referring to Doge, and Doge has been a failure, objectively, right? And objectively, it's a failure in the polls, even though the notion of Doge is really popular. People don't like the execution in terms of the amount saved, even if you take Doge at face value, which of course you shouldn't. It's generally a bad proposition. But Elon Musk promised $2 trillion. We'll wipe out $2 trillion off the federal budget, which every person paying attention was like, that's a really stupid thing to say. That's impossible. Then he knocked it down to $1 trillion. Still really stupid, virtually impossible. Then he said, okay, we'll shoot for $1 trillion, maybe half a trillion. And now, reportedly, again, if you take their words at face value, which you shouldn't, it's about 160 billion. And there are credible analyses indicating that Doge is costing the American taxpayer about as much, if not more, in terms of its various lawsuits, in terms of the loss of productivity. It's been a disaster. It's been an abject failure, which is why the polling is what it is on it. We'll continue.
Texas, and it's because people aren't getting their children vaccinated. Do you recommend to parents that they get their children vaccinated for measles?
Well, I recommend the governors to make the decisions. You have a very talented governor of Texas, and he's making decisions, and those decisions are going to be made rapidly. This is a very much different thing than COVID in terms of rapidity and speed and other things. Measles have been with us a long time, and I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying that the governors are making the decision. It's a federalist decision.
The president is our leader in so many ways, and your voice counts so much, and you can't tell moms and dads, yeah, it's a good thing to get a measles vaccine.
Do I recommend it? Yes, I do. I recommend it, yeah.
Got it. That was my question.
Do I mandate it? No.
No, I didn't
But
ask.
I do recommend it, yes.
Good. Do you think
And I have recommended it.
Do you think the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has a history of, at the very least, vaccine skepticism, do you think Kennedy recommends the measles vaccine?
He did. He recommended.
Yeah. So under Donald Trump, we are seeing a resurgence in measles outbreaks. You know, this is an illness that was largely contained thanks to a highly efficacious vaccine, but because of a resurgence in vaccine skepticism, thanks to the MAGA movement, thanks to the Republican Party, we're starting to see people have serious questions. Maybe I shouldn't vaccinate my children against measles. Just totally disrupting for no good reason, settled science. But these clips I'm about to show you, to me, are the most impactful because it speaks to Trump's revenge tour and his attack on free speech and free expression and his political opponents. Brace yourselves. It's pretty chilling.
You've gone after law firms because they've employed people you don't like, or they have represented people
Well,
you
they
don't
obviously
like.
agreed because they paid me a lot of money.
Well, the reason they agreed is because you were threatening to destroy their business with your executive order that said you can't represent clients for the federal government. That's their bread and butter.
Boys. These are the biggest, most powerful lawyers. These are not people
You got a lot of leverage
are
as
easily
president.
intimidated.
As president, you've got all the cards.
I mean, they paid hundreds of millions of dollars because they felt, I guess, they probably felt they did something wrong.
It was for survival, sir.
No, it isn't.
You were crushing their
these
business.
These firms are very powerful firms, and there's 15 of them. And these are firms that probably, well, look, you have to ask them. In fact, this is a separate story. You have to ask them, why did you all pay Trump hundreds of millions of dollars in services, etc.? Why did you do that? I don't know.
You don't think that
we have a clause in the thing that while we admit no wrongdoing, but you know, it's like one of those things. And now I'm friendly with those firms, but it's, you know, these are the most powerful firms in the world. And they just signed whatever I put in front of them. I've never seen anything like it. I'm actually surprised myself in a certain way. But they obviously felt they probably did something wrong. I guess that's why they signed.
I guess the question out of that is the concern that people have. Are you using your powers as president to get personal revenge?
No, I'll tell you what. You're really not asking, and you should be asking. There has never been a president in this country, in the history, that was persecuted like I was persecuted by really crooked people, dishonest, horrible people, and it's been proven. So when you say I'm treating people rough, I'm not treating people rough. I was treated worse than any president in the history of our country. And you know, people figured, well, maybe that's it. Finally, we got, you know, he's leaving town. There goes the helicopter. And then I came back. And I came back because I have tremendous support. You know, when you win an election like I won it, and you will admit I won all 7 swing states. I won the popular vote. I won 2,750 districts compared to 500 districts. That's why the map is all red. And those people feel that I was treated unfairly.
But is
Yeah, so Trump, of course, was not treated unfairly. He was prosecuted because there was credible evidence that he broke the law. Yes, he did win the election, but that has no bearing on whether or not he is seeking revenge on his political opponents now, and he's reveling in it. He's reveling in it. And these various bodies which have capitulated to Trump should be shamed and humiliated for the rest of their careers because they have just enabled authoritarianism and potentially worse things down the road. Here's another clip on that score.
that Biden knew anything about it.
Fair enough. But you are the president now, and I'm asking the justification for going after people you don't like.
No. People that I think are dishonest. It's not that I don't even know most of them. They're people that I
These
think
people
are
made
dishonest.
you angry.
No, it's not anger. These are people that I think are very dishonest. I don't think they're worthy of being able to go into top secret information. I think that's fine. And Biden did that with many of our people. But when you
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. So that's the thing. Like President Biden didn't randomly pull Republican security clearances out of retribution. He didn't take security details away from people who criticize him, as Trump has done with former Trump officials. But what Donald Trump is doing, as the Libertarian Free Speech Organization FIRE has noted, is unprecedented in scale, scope, and severity. Donald Trump is objectively worse on this revenge and retribution issue than any president we've ever seen. One last clip, really ominous.
What do you say to people who are concerned you are seizing too much power and becoming an authoritarian president like we haven't had before?
No, I would hate them to think that. I'm doing one thing. I'm making America great again. We have a country that was failing. We have a country that was laughed at all over the world. We had a leader that was grossly incompetent. He should have never been there. The election was rigged. He should have never been there. Our country suffered greatly, and now our country's coming back like nobody can believe.
So Donald Trump was actually laughed at to his face by the United Nations. So to whatever extent Biden is mocked, Trump has been objectively mocked even more so. We have polling out. We discussed this recently, that there's been a poll, Axios reported on this, that a majority of Americans refer to Donald Trump as a ruthless dictator. Yeah, so the authoritarian tendencies of Trump are unparalleled in this country and without precedent. And when he's saying, oh, I wish I wouldn't think that, but I'm just doing whatever I need to make America great again, most dictators and authoritarians of the past in other countries have used similar logic. I'm just doing what I need to do. And we're only 100 days in. Pretty scary stuff. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.